Thank you for asking for this video from my daughter to show to interested groups that unfortunately missed the first time around at the district meeting because of conflict of meetings. I welcome you to my ideas of this and that and then and now. And this and that. That is going to be the preparation of our plant material. Prior to doing our arrangements, we selected, and prior to horticulture entries. You'd be surprised how dirty that atmosphere is. You should wash your materials in a light sudsy water and then rinse. Submerge them in clean, cold water for the leaves. Cut the ends underwater and weight them down with a wet towel. And you can put a lot in the bathtub, and maybe nobody will yell about the bathtub not being available. But anyway, it's the best way that I know of. There are any number of preservatives. 1 tablespoon of old-fashioned Listerine to 1 quart of water. No more, no less. You don't want everybody smelling Listerine when you take your materials out to do a demonstration or to exhibit. But this does harden off the leaves, particularly in April. They haven't got enough hardness, so you can use it then. Aspidistra, camellia leaves, do not like the Listerine bath. Akuba objects to it a little bit, so you use cold water. If you're using aspidistra leaves and they start to limp, cut them, dip them in salt water, and then put them in a little container of water, and they'll straighten right out. And you've heard the story. I can't keep roses in my house. They always droop. There's a boiling method. Boil water, take your roses out, cut the stem, put them in the container that's got the boiling water in. Leave them for 30 minutes, and they will straighten up, and they won't droop again. The reason for it, they've been cut, and a block got in there and won't allow water to come up, and it's a block of air. So if you release it by cutting the end and in the hot boiling water, it'll keep. Dahlias, they start to droop. Do in boiling water. Please never, never cook your dahlias in boiling water. You cook them up to the stem and they can't draw up any water. They're a hollow stem thing. Because when you pick them, you turn them upside down. You don't want to lose that water. Put a band around them and then put them in a container to carry. This way, if they start to droop, the boiling water. Now remember these things, it isn't hard to do it when you get into a real go-around. Now we got hellebores. Hellebores are coming up pretty soon that we can use. But they always droop, don't they? Some of them droop naturally no matter what you do. That's their growth habit. But some of them are supposed to be perky and stand right up. So I had a Japanese teacher, and we were using the hellebores. And she went, 1 for me and 1 for that. And she giggled. She spoke less English than I did Japanese. But we had lots of fun and finally figured out what she was saying. You're drinking sake, give some to the hellebore. I thought she meant she took a drink and then gave a drink to the hellebores at the end of the day. Where would you be? But it does work. Maples, forsythia, wild currant, plum, blueberries, huckleberries are a wonderful plant to use. You can get on bare branches, bring them in, put them in warm water, and before you do that, take your chili peppers, your hot chili peppers. Remember, you're handling these things, watch your hands. And you just take off a little bit in the end, and you cut the end of the stem of the thing you're using, and put this in there, push it way up, and then put it in your warm water or cold water. And leave it in there from the time that you discard your arrangement. Leaves will come out, blossoms will come out. Fruit won't form because there's no pollination. But you will be surprised at how long you can keep them. I have kept them as long as 2 months. Change your water regularly, of course, and make sure they don't dry out. And if your cat wants to drink the water, do something, put rosemary there, that'll deter them from getting up there to do it. Now, we're going into the garden itself, and the bane of our existence in the Northwest is slugs and snails. As much as I don't like slugs, I couldn't resist this piece of weathered wood. It was picked up on the beach, I don't know where, and all the creatures in it have been well taken away and cleaned, and that's all I did to it was brush it. And it does look like a slug. And there are so many ways of controlling slugs that we use them because they get into our tomatoes, they get into our hostas and all our other perennials. At this time of the year in the fall, and you're cleaning up your garden, it's 1 cup of non-sudsing ammonia to 1 quart of water. Proportions no more, no less, remember. And you pour that in the center of your hostas, in the center of your perennials. And any place else where there's debris and you haven't got it cleaned up, be sure to use it. It does get the eggs, and that's what we're after, is the eggs. So it's an ongoing battle. There are so many things that one can buy on the market and use. I use the blue chip control because when it's through, the rains don't bother it, and when its time limit has passed, it turns fuzzy and becomes oxygen in the ground. I have the fattest worms there are, and of course now the moles are going to start to be active, and I don't know what I'll do about those. But we have other controls that can be used. Superphosphate is one of them, but you can't get it on the leaves. Blue chip, you can if you happen to get it on the leaves. So that's on with it, and I have 31 different birds that visit our yard every year, different times of the year. We won't count the mallard that wants to swim in the pool, or the blue heron that wants to come to our yard. But this blue heron, as you see, I found at the beach, and he is several pieces put together, meaty. But it does look like a blue heron. He's all down there. And man, they came to my yard once. He is the biggest thing. He's awesome. But I don't want him here anywhere. But this is the materials that were in the area where he is. And there are pebbles that we cover up the needle holder and comes down and around in sort of a design. Your ferns, you must wash them at this time of the year by submerging them. Why? Because of the spore on the back. I used them once at my daughter's office. I'm glad she didn't make me clean up. So now I submerge and clean them. And if it doesn't all come off, a little brush, clean brush, soft hair brush, on the back will brush off any spore you've got so that you can use it. And they last a long time in the garden. When you're using weathered wood, you make sure the weathered wood does not touch the water. And you do that by using separate containers to hold your plant material. And this is the way I envision this. He's gone through my geranium patch. And I'll just push him forward a bit. Yeah, there it goes. And this way you don't get these ugly water lines on your thing. And if you can't do that, drill holes and use a dowel to bring them up above the water line. It's this way I see the slug. I'm very interested in gourds. I saw them in Africa and in Mexico. Then the new book came out on gourds. So I had to join the American Gourd Society. And they have the snake, the drum. This, you know, is a gourd. It's called the loofah, and it's used for baths. And they grow on vines, and my daughter told me they're rampant. No way on 6 acres are we going to plant gourds. So I have to go, I'll have to buy them from back east, where they come from. Now, I did this because I felt that by itself, it was a little strange. It needed a little bit of something, and because it does grow on a vine, and we'll see if I got this so it'll go in there just right. It did once before, you know, but I have to make sure I get it in. And this is the sort of thing that they use making baskets. I was going to make baskets once. I just thought it would be so wonderful until I realized it was more work than I wanted to do, so I leave it to the experts. And I use this now in every way I can. And I just broke the head of my flower there. But come on, get in. And patience prevails, you know. These needle holders are pin stickers, aren't they? Not going to stand up here. Get in this way. There. And there. If I can't do this. Okay, then you cut the ends. Make it go in. Yeah, that'll go in. And it's going to be just what it wants to do, not what I want it to do. I should have soaked it again. You can re-soak these things, you know. But this is supposed to stand up. And is it going to? No. That's. And I broke my stem. Well, you can't see it, so we'll just put the leaf in there, and there's no sad shape. You know, dahlias at this time of the year, they're going down pretty fast. But I would re-soak this and make sure it comes up like that. I feel that it's a nice color combination. Trim off some of my things I've been doing. When you're using a pin frog in a container, it'll slide all over the place, but you can get this in various colors, Costco, every place. And they use it in trailers to keep the dishes from moving around. But this will keep your frog in place where you want it. If you notice, I don't use any clay on the bottom of my frog, because invariably I did that and placed it. I would want it more to the right or to the left or forward or backwards. This way I have the freedom of moving my needle holder and arrangement. Now, we're going to move this just a little bit. And you know, these grow on vines, but they're never straight. They're all over. So I feel this is a good interpretation of a loofah or a gourd on a vine. You want to know how I keep the water inside without it getting all soft? I put pegs up through here to hold it in off the needle holder. Then I use orchid tubes. And I punched it down through. There's a hole. And I put a smaller one up on top. And then filled it with a syringe with water. And then inserted my plant material. And it'll keep that way a long time. But all kinds of these. Some of them have long spears that you can use to put into your oasis in different arrangements. Because springtime, tulips and daffodils don't like to be together in the same water. So this way you can have them side by side, but they got their own little water source, and you stick them into an oasis. And this way you don't have to use a pencil to make your hole, because you can do it once. Remember, on oasis, poke once, never more. This is the bamboo of which I speak. And there, straighten it up. I have another. There it goes. Now I'm going to use this coloring. It kind of picks up the blue of the container. Now, if you notice, I am working from the back, and you're seeing the finished product as I go. Let's hope that it's put together properly. any foliage that goes underwater, you know, must be stripped off. And so I'm stripping off this, and this doesn't add anything, it's kind of whimsical. And this is just a wee bit too tall, as you can see. It should come down only just a wee bit. And they're very weak stems at this time of the year. Well, I'll make it stand up with another one somehow. Okay, you can take a leaf like this, it puts it in the center, and put that in the front where it wants to bend. And that should keep it from traveling. See? I got these dahlias from Jeanette Manson, who grows beautiful dahlias. And she apologized for them because she said they're going down now. I thought that they were the colors are so beautiful. I'm not going to use these because they're 2 weeks down. I got 4 in there, but I think by the time I add my Oriental nebulosus, this is Topodon, it's the beautiful color. It picks up all the coloring I have in here. It will compensate for the lack of rhodie. When you're putting your leaves together, try to do them in an area like putting the stems together. And remember, when you're cutting your material, you want to make sure that you are cutting from all 4 sides of your material so that I think that goes there. Oh, this has got a cut in it. So I'm going to just trim it out. You know why I'm doing that, but it's going to fit right in the side there, and so you're not going to really see it too much. It's going to come down in underneath, like that. This one will come up. I believe that this creates a balance of at least 1.5 of your container up and across. You go at least 1.5. I like to go up 2.5 because I can always cut it off and it's pretty hard to add to, you know. So I feel that this is high enough, don't you? I think it's fine. So we'll just toss these, and I think that we can say that that's a finished arrangement. One way, just to refresh your memories, to harden off bamboo is that these nodes are waterproof. And if you take a clothes hanger and straighten it out and sharpen one end of it, put the other end into your drill, you can drill from the top clear down to the last node, and then you fill with water. I didn't know that. Jan, my son-in-law, told me that, and it does work. But this piece of bamboo I'd had, this is 1, 2. This is going on the 3rd week. It was picked the Sunday before my demonstration, and this is Saturday. It's 3 weeks old. And I use a syringe. You can get them cheap at the drugstore. I filled the top. Then with my Demerol drill, I drilled a little hole here, which I could fill up with water for this one. And I drilled a hole here to fill up water to the next one. And I think it's interesting. It's fun to see how long it's going to last. They are tired looking in as much as there's spots on them, but they were that way when I started out. And so this is one way that you can keep your bamboo going in an arrangement. Maple, if you keep them with that pepper on them. The one thing I want to say, this basket has no handles. Therefore, it becomes a container. When you have a basket with handles, you leave more than half of the handle exposed. And the other part, a third, you can put into plant material and use it that way. That's why this is a basket. And you never pick up a basket by its handles. If you do, you'll have happened to you what happened to me one time. It was a very inexpensive basket, and it probably wasn't made very well. But I had it all well done, and I was so proud of it. And I swooped in and picked it up by the handle and walked over, and here sits the basket, and here's my handle. So always pick up your containers and your baskets with both hands. If there's a hole in your container, don't put your finger in that and carry your container. It's not meant to carry weight. Put your hands around them and carry them. Now here's the basket with a handle that I was mentioning earlier. And you see, if I pick it up like this, it's well made, but I treasure this. It's one from China. I've had it a long, long time. My children got this for me in the 50s when their place was going out of business. So now I'm going to pick up the colors in this by the use of the New Zealand flax. And I was reading in my Ikebana magazine, New Zealand flax blooms. There's a lily. And come on, get down in there. I didn't know it bloomed. I should know, though, of course, that it would bloom. And in using this, it's too much leaf, isn't it? But if I prune some of it out, I can use it in the background. And then I will use these. In placement of flowers, try not to have them look right at you in the eye. Kind of left shoulder, right shoulder, and we want them to remember, these are getting a little tired, but we'll use them. And odd numbers, 1, 2, 3, 4, should use 5. And don't be afraid to prune up your leaves. And if it interferes with the line that you're creating, trim it off. It doesn't have to be there if it's not balancing something and you want it a certain way. There. This came from this side of the bush. And I'm trying to put it on this side of the bush. It won't go because it wants to go this way. This is when you learn there's a left and a right. And this one goes the way I want it to go. And I put it in. We need one more. Right there, it's too tall. Got to shorten it. Because we want it, I believe there's a void there. After viewing this in the front, I see that we have to have a little more to finish this off down here. And as you can see, the peony leaves, there we go, peony leaves, New Zealand flax, and the dahlias are all very complementary to the basket. This is one of my favorite containers from K. Simpson. It's 3 parts to this one. I have a blue one that's 3 parts. But this is for rhythm. It can be abstract. There's so many ways that I can use it, and I use it constantly. However, the mechanics of getting things to stand up in this thing are really a challenge. So I have devised any number of ways of blocking what I have to block here to hold this up, because this is fresh material, you know, and it will stay out of the water. It will take the water I got in here, but it will stay out of the water a while. But I've got to make sure that I got this wedged in here so it will stand up. And that way, it follows the line. And then I have aspidistra, and what I have done here, I had to lengthen the stem because it didn't grow tall enough. And this is a shredded one, and I put it in this straw, pull the straw down a bit. And then I put it in the back, right here, and I can put the straw out of sight, and it holds this way. You want to know how this is done? There are many ribs on aspidistra. There's a right side and a left side. The wide side is the one that you use to strip. You put your nail in there. This is many reasons why arrangers don't have many nails. They're using them for other things besides. And I'm just going up the side. See? Just going up the side. You know, aspidistra is hardy. I've grown it for over 30 years in my garden. And of course I'm looking for the variegated one. I do have some, but I need much more than I've got. And then you can tell about when you want to stop. And this dries beautifully by pinning it to the wall and let it hang. And then you can, for the holidays, you can spray it any color you want. And see, this is one that's on this side. And you can place them together with great depth. Now, this was originally done for our flower show school, and any materials that the arranger wished to use, she could. So I originally used lilies, which were I've got to cut that down a little bit. Now, I don't know if I can see that or not, but I do believe that this is a completed arrangement. I'll take a look and just see what it looks like before we continue on. I have used a little aurora fix up the yellow and the green to add and finish off the front and give it more depth and sturdiness to the things. This adds a little more creative interest, I believe. If I didn't use that and just use flowers, it would be rather a mundane design. This way, it's created more interest and picked up the colors in all of it. This is a grape from our grapevines. We all got tired of picking them because they weren't really particularly good. So I salvaged from the grapevines. And to balance them, I drilled a hole and I put this up in here to balance it. I have a knob here that's supposed to balance it here. Remember now I said supposed to? I may struggle with this design, but I'm going to get it done. I'm determined. And this is how you wedge some of your things in. And as you can see, there is Oasis here. When you use Oasis, put it in boiling water or very hot water and weight it down, and it will absorb quickly so that the center is not dry. It does take some time to condition these things. And so, again, I'm going to put this down in. And this is supposed to be magic, you know? Magic. Magic. That's right, a little more. Okay. Guess what I did? Used the wrong dowel. Dowels never absorb water, and that's why they're so good to use with weathered wood. And this is going to go down in like that. I got several holes in here. It worked. It worked. Now I'm going to turn this around. No, I'm not. This goes in this way. And mechanics are showing. But when I'm through with the arrangement, they will not show. We're in hopes that they won't show. Now I'm looking at the front of the arrangement, and in momentarily I will turn it around for you so that you can see. If the bud doesn't add anything to the design, why, just remove it. This is Little Aurora. Got chewed up by what I don't know. And this is Perigeum. And as you can see, this would be a little large, I think, for this container and the materials that I have. But this is a little small. So how are we going to compensate for that? I need this sort of green. Maybe I can do it this way. I'll do it that way. And still too long. Excuse me, I've got to look. The colors I picked up in the container by Shirley Kinsley, and the grapevine, the greenery, establishes a, wow, for the arrangement. The dahlias are really beautiful. They really held up well, because you know we had rain yesterday when these were picked. This is plastic tubing cut at different sizes, and there's a round disc on the bottom, and it's glued. This you can pick up by this weight. It'd be better if you picked it up this way. And the multiple openings, so many of our shows call for multiple openings of thrust and things like that, and there's any number of ways to use this. But I thought that I would use this with the ting-ting, and when you use ting-ting, don't forget to pull it up and get a little depth to it, a little height to it. And this would have frogs in the center. They'll hold water. Ting Ting will stand the water. Remember, all leaves underwater should be removed. And I did this, and so stand up there. Can put a, can thread it through to tighten it to make it stand up in the New Zealand flax, said she. Doesn't want to do that either. Well, this is you could use mechanics like this as long as it does not detract from your design. Okay, now we turn this around, sit, now the colors complementary, and this is certainly Christmassy or any time of the year, and it takes any flower with colors, particularly purple and orange. Now we're using a Cryptomeria cristata, as my son-in-law calls it, the mutant tree. But I used this green and judiciously pruned all this fuzzy stuff out of there. And then I used it in a brown state, and now I'm using it in a black spray. And it doesn't have to stay in a black spray. You can overspray with anything that you want. But when you start spraying things like this, use a clear acrylic first. Otherwise you'll have 3 cans just up here. So then I'm going to use a child's toy, which is called the Tangle. And the Tangle just intrigues me. I'm sure it did the children too, because you can twist and turn and do most anything with it. So we'll use that. The sunflower is in tribute to the birds that came to my yard and donated this. And they're curvy. And again, now I've got to use the tangle. I'm going to use the black first because it shows up the white on the container. And I'm going to use sunflower stalk to hold it, and then I'll shove it up to, there we go. It's going to hold. And well, we got to have some hosta leaves just to prove that you got to have hosta leaves to do arrangements. Even they're getting tired at the end of the season. But they dry so beautifully. Every one that I've used here today will go in the drying room, hang from the ceiling, and then when they've turned their peculiar colors and twisted and turning, then I'll use them as in the holiday shows, sprayed various colors, and that's pretty small. That is the arrangement. I'm going to turn it so that you can see. It doesn't take much to make an arrangement. Just a little bit. I think it's well placed. There's depth. It's exciting. And if you feel this crosses the line with this one, you can remove it and you can put it over here. But I think this is all right. We got cross lines up here. Now, that concludes my demonstration. Hope you enjoyed it. Remember my tips. Don't forget the hot water, the salt, the vinegar, the Listerine, and the chili pepper. Enjoy, and it should be fun, and work hard. Don't forget to use silk flowers when you haven't got fresh ones. Bye now.